Thank you very much, everyone who came here willingly, and those of you who are here under duress. So we're going to jump right in and go, and brace yourself. I'm in a feisty mood, so very good. Okay, so these are the things I'm not going to talk about, and I wish there was a way the slides could be clearer, but I guess there isn't, is there? You know. Anyway, they're so pretty. And you're not getting the full import. But and we're not going to talk about Act 1 really beyond what I've said. Happy to talk about in that questions. I'm not going to talk about the movie or movies. But again, if there's anything you want to know about them, I would ask you to keep them in your prayers. Trying to combine sacred cinema with very unsacred Hollywood is a very painstaking and awful journey. So we'll see what happens. Not going to really talk about breaking into screenwriting, directing, acting, animation, video games, television production, or any of that tonight. But again, if you want to talk about that after, please do. Don't want to talk about Mel Gibson, especially this week. Again, poor Mel. But whatever. Anyway, anything you want to talk about at the end, glad to see. So my thought is to go for an hour and then have questions with you for 15 minutes or whatever. See how long you're there, if you're still hanging with me. This is where we're headed. What our Christian art and stories look like today, and why is it all so bad? Just to kind of be very vague about my opinion. What is beauty, and why does it matter? And what are Catholic presuppositions in storytelling? What is actually, if we have to say, what is a Catholic movie? What is a Christian movie? What should we mean by that? So that's where I want to go tonight, okay? So I want to start with this mandate, go into the whole world and tell all men the good news. And I will be with you always, the Lord. My opinion is that today, as a 21st century apostle and disciple, going into the whole world means very much going into 20th Century Fox, Disney, DreamWorks, Columbia, and Universal, and ABC and CBS and HBO and Showtime. I notice I didn't put EWTN up there, and I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying EWTN and things of that ilk have a place, catechesis, but I think that they're not evangelization enough. They're catechesis, which we need, and I'm going to say more about that. But we've got to, at a certain point, stop talking to ourselves in little rooms. And we have to venture forth. And that's my main thing. So I want to start here and say that once the church was the patron of the arts. I use this expression with my students at the Los Angeles Film Study Center. I just kind of threw off the words patron of the arts. And one girl in the front row raised her hand and she said, "Who is that?" And I said, what do you mean? She said, "Well, who's the patron of the arts?" And I said, "Well, who do you think it is?" And they kind of shrugged, and one of the kids said, "The Bravo Channel?" Somebody else said, "The Sundance Institute?" That's pathetic. Pathetic that we could no longer make the claim that the church is the patron of the arts with any credibility at all. And even if we say it to ourselves in a kind of smug way, the world would laugh at us. The Catholic Church is no longer the place where people go to see work like this, the most brilliant, beautiful art that is being produced. The question is, was it a good thing or a bad thing that the church was a patron of the arts? Let me cut right to the quick. Does anybody want to say it was a bad thing? Okay. Where are we today? Pope Benedict says the two greatest signs that the church is true are the lives of the saints and the works of art that the people of God produce. Where are we today? How did we get here? How did we get here? This is the Los Angeles Cathedral, built a few years ago. $210 million. The the Cathedral of Our Lady Queen of the Angels. This is the Basilica of Milan. How did we get here? How did we get here? This is Handel's Messiah, first page, and this is Our God is an Awesome God. All evidence to the contrary. But just look at the difference. One of the measures of beauty is complexity. That something can be beautiful and simple, but something can be more beautiful if it becomes more complex. And as it grows in complexity, it becomes more beautiful. So just look at the complexity. And there's nothing wrong with simplicity. It's perfect for the Barney show. Okay. The truth is that the art made by Christians today is not only not beautiful, but tends to be among the ugliest art that mankind is producing. Double your fun with Jesus. My husband insisted that I include this slide. He loves this. This is from King of the Hill. Can't you see that you're not making Christianity better, you're just making rock and roll worse? All right, what is our legacy as Catholic storytellers? These are just some of my favorites. The Divine Comedy, Pilgrim's Progress, Anna Karenina, Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, The Man Who Was Thursday, Shadowed, Kristen Lavransdatter, Brideshead Revisited, The Drywood, The Lord of the Rings, The End of the Affair, The Power and the Glory, A Good Man is Hard to Find, and Everything Flannery Ever Exhaled, Diary of a Country Priest, Till We Have Faces, Ivan Denisovich, Love in the Ruins, The Severe Mercy, Silence. These are the kinds of stories that Catholics or Christians put out there in the literary sphere in the past. This is, Flannery and Walker Percy and Sigrid Undset. Has anybody read Kristen Lavransdatter? I'm obsessed with this book right now. I think it's Lord of the Rings for women and men, but whatever. It's our turn. So this is our legacy. I'm sorry, the slides are. Can you even see them? Can you read it? Yeah? Okay. Where are we today in stories? These have lasted. And in 500 years, people will still be reading them. Anybody want to say 5 years? 50 years? You're going to fight for Father Elijah? Okay. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad someone's going to advocate Bella. We'll use that soon. So here we go. Our great books versus our banal books. Here's some things that separate them. Great books were generally written for the mainstream. They speak to everyone on different levels. You don't have to be Catholic to read Brideshead Revisited. If you are Catholic, you get it in a whole other way. Great books have high craft in writing and storytelling. They actually show talent. Great books deal with high stakes evil and sin. They are generally upsetting. Or what John Paul II said, art must be prophetic. Great art should strike you as if you have been awakened. Not violated, but awakened. And that if you encounter art and it doesn't shake you up, it's bad art. And unfortunately, things that shake us up, as Flannery O'Connor said, I use violence because I find it uniquely prepares my reader for revelation. And she also says, when people are deaf, you have to shout. And she also says, and I think that in future years, we're going to have to be shouting much louder in our art. More macabre, more weird and disturbing. Flannery was writing about serial killers in the 50s. Great books would never be confused with propaganda. Great books are not embarrassing when you're with pagans. And great books are profound, but often not pious. That is, a lot of those books I just listed for you don't really deal with overt Catholic theology. They generally deal with sin. But in the end, you feel like you've had a theological experience. It's kind of a paradox. A lot of times I look at our Christian work today, which is so overtly dripping in Christianese, and I don't feel like I've had a theological experience at the end. Okay, so I just want to qualify everything I'm going to say, though, because I want to make sure we get this stuff off the table and that you're not worrying about this and miss what I'm going to say because you're worrying about this. Yes, we need explicitly Catholic efforts in education, for certain vocations. I was a nun for 9.5 years. It was appropriate that all we did was talk about Catholic stuff all day long. That was my world. And I think also when you're talking about renewing and recovering efforts of the disciples, you need a periodic cenacle experience where you go into an upper room, you go on a retreat, and you get suffused. We can subsidize subpar art and media in the church in beginner efforts, right? And according to cultural norms. But I mean, beginner efforts are important. So here's this little girl to finger paint. If your little girl came to you and said, "Mommy, look what I did," you wouldn't say, "That's crap. You have no talent, you hack." You wouldn't. This reminds me of a story. One day I staggered out of the 5 o'clock Mass in LA at St. Charles. It's our parish, and this is the guitar Mass. Every time I see those strings, I think, and they thought Middle Ages had bizarre torture methods. But anyway, I staggered out of the Mass, and I said to Father, now we never go to that Mass because we know it's going to be, it just happened to be, but I staggered out, and I said to Father, "Father, what did we do to deserve music this bad?" And he said, "You didn't like it? Well, you can go to the 10 o'clock Mass, we have the choir, or we have the 1 o'clock Mass, there's more church." And I said, No. Father, you can have bad music well performed. You can have good music well performed. You can have good music badly performed. And you can have bad music badly performed. And that's what you have. And then he said to me, "Barbara, if a little 4-year-old child went to her mother with a little picture and said, 'Here, Mommy,' the mother wouldn't say, 'This is ugly.' She'd put it on her refrigerator. And that's what God does with us." And I said, "Yes, Father, but let me put you another case. Supposing I, a 45-year-old woman, brought my mother a picture that looked like it had been drawn by a 4-year-old. My mother would say, 'What the heck is this?' and not put it on the refrigerator." And I think that's the situation in the church today. If I really believed that what we're doing to ourselves in the arts in the church was the best we could do, hey, but I don't. Anyway, more about that. The question is, should there be a Catholic subculture? I realize I'm asking this question deep in the Catholic subculture end zone here at Steubenville. But as I said, this is one of those places where it's allowed. You're in an educational environment. It's appropriate that you be steeped in a certain climate here while you're in training to go out and be yeast in the lump. But the question is, when you go out, are you going to need to set up the Catholic Motorcycle Riders Club or join it? Or mantled Catholic clothing? God only knows what that is. Are you going to need to find your dates at Catholic Match? Ooh, well, yes. Ooh. Catholic jukebox for Catholic music by Catholic artists? Are you going to need the Catholic cookbook? Because we do broccoli better. And then this one, Pura Vida for the Catholic surfers. God forbid we surf alongside pagans. Should there be a Catholic subculture? Okay, here's Church Lady from Saturday Night Live. Thank you very much. Excuse for not evangelizing number 1. Fear pretending to be prudence. You should only be in a Catholic motorcycle club because these other bikers might use cuss words. Now, I'm putting under the realm of all of this. A lot of stuff I'm going to say tonight, I know what you're going to be thinking. I don't want to go out and be with the pagans in Hollywood or wherever. Because I don't want to be with people who are going to be what? Pagans? How disciple-y of you. Yeah. Imagine if St. Paul took that tack. Okay, Corinth and Ephesus, off. Those are the centers of prostitution, you know. Not going to Corinth. Need to be safe. Imagine where the church would be if our forefathers in the faith were as chicken-livered as we are today. Imagine there would be no North American martyrs. Why would you go somewhere where people might kill you? Excuse for not evangelizing number 2, laziness. It's too stressful to have to be with people who don't know the Lord. You don't want to always be explaining things and defending yourself. You know, I love the Steubenville students out in Hollywood. There's a little group of them. Some of them come through Act 1. But I have a complaint with them, and I tell them this all the time, so I'm going to share it with you. They like to party just with themselves. Like, we're having a Catholic party. We're having a Catholic Christmas party. And I'm like, a Catholic Christmas party? Why can't we invite some of our evangelical friends? Because we want to say the rosary at our Catholic Christmas party. I'm like, can't we flip and sing some Christmas carols and let the Protestants come and party with us? Because it's called, let them get to know us. And then we get converts. But this gets to be sheer laziness. And it gets to be, yes, it's a little more difficult to be with people who don't speak and talk and get exactly what you get and how you get it. But it's called being an evangelizer. What is wrong with us? And you guys notice that the cave we're dwelling in, the walls are closing in on you? Do you notice that? The U.S. government says, hey, looks like a good time to have a persecution. Because they're guessing that there is no fight in us. And they're making that guess based on observation. Number 3, excuse for not evangelizing number 3, and this one I love. I get all kinds of versions of this. Snobitude. Non-believers don't have the Spirit, so they get stuck on things like bad acting and bad writing. Thank the Lord we are more profound, and no, it's the message that matters. If I've heard that once, I've heard it 100 times. I get criticized a lot for criticizing bad production value in projects made by believers. People say to me, what did you think of this movie? I said, well, it had no second act. And they say, how can you say that? It was made by Catholics. Can somebody get me some water, please? I'm doing my Sicilian thing. Thank you. It's made by Catholics. You realize we have no credibility if we say, well, we're going to criticize Warner Brothers for not having a second act. But Catholics, it's going to be okay. The church used to be made of sterner stuff in the arts. Has anybody here been to St. Peter's in Rome? All right. Is there a wall in St. Peter's for Doris and Stan who couldn't paint but had a heart for the Lord? The church used to be able to say, Doris and Stan, we love you. Take up the collection. Don't paint. Or if you want to paint, do it in your own house, but not for the general edification of the community. That's for the best. We used to be made of sterner stuff, and now we're sitting around congratulating ourselves on our banal efforts because our hearts are in the right place. You know what? Our hearts are not in the right place. I'm going to say it. Because if your heart was in the right place, your butt would get in the right place. That means hard work. So here's some of the Catholic ghetto graffiti. Some of you are thinking. Hollywood is anti-Christian. If we work with them, they will ruin our stories. My personal opinion is we're ruining our stories fine by ourselves. The truth is, most times Hollywood would be a check on quality, and that's why we don't want to play with them. We wouldn't be able to compete as artists. So we go around telling ourselves that we have to preserve our holy story. Now, I'm engaged in an all-out war right now to preserve a holy story in a very secular environment. But one of the things I'm fighting is that there are no other people like me at the studio. It's like it's this business. The culture is not going to be better until we have boots on the ground at all those places I showed you in the beginning. Now, the thing has gotten better in the last 15 years. Act One has been a part of that. We've pumped, 1,000 people into this business, and it's a small business, really. But we need a lot more. We need more than one person on every TV show. We need 3 to 4 or 5. Because all we ever do, mainly our victories are what we keep off the screen, because we don't have enough clout to get our ideas all the way through. That comes with numbers. There was a little movie, just an example, there was a little movie at a production company where there were 5 Act One people working, and they had come there gradually through our executive program. So we had somebody in the story department, somebody working the assistant to the president. Anyway, there were 5 of them there. Somebody was doing finance. So there was a little screenplay, and a couple of the executives of the company were sneering at this screenplay. This is 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, saying, this is kind of hokey. And one of our students who was there said, I liked it, and I think it would play in the red states. And then the executive said, really? And one of our other alumni who was there seconded the motion and said, I liked it too. I think it would really play back home. So then the executives are like, really? And they looked around, and the other 3 Act Oneers chimed in. I liked it too. So did I. So one of the executives said, the central role here, we've been looking for a vehicle for Sandra Bullock to work with us. Send it over to Sandy. This was The Blind Side. It was kept alive by the Act One group. It went through, it won Sandy the Oscar, and it was nominated for Best Picture. It was a good little film. Not Lawrence of Arabia, but a good, solid little film. And there's nothing embarrassing in it. But that just shows you what clout can do. Clout is numbers. Okay, more Catholic graffiti. Our movie will only be holy if everybody who works on it believes in the Divine Mercy Novena. No. See, we have 2 distinctions in Hollywood. One's called above the line and below the line. Above the line people affect content. These are producers, directors, and writers, and then some actors. Below the line is everybody else. Amazing artists in costuming and production design and location scouting and casting and lighting design and all the animation stuff and all the effects and sound. And these are all below the line artists. Now, these people can be tremendously talented people who are, most people in Hollywood, it's not that they're anti-Christian, it's that it's just not their life. They're secular. Why not bring them into our show, into our house, pay them a good wage, treat them fairly, give them a positive experience? We keep the above-the-line positions, the producer, the writer, and the director, but everybody else works for us. This is insanity. That we'll work with people who love the Lord but have no talent in the arts and media. I see it over and over and over again. A project a few years ago, and the guy called me and he said, I'm looking at your cast here. I don't know any of these names. I said, this is going to be a hard thing when you get to marketing, because nobody's going to put you on Regis and Kath and Kelly. Nobody's going to put you on the Today Show because I don't know any of the names here, and this is a celebrity-driven business. The reason you invest money in paying a star is because it's an investment in the marketing. And they said to me, we want only people who are going to be praying with us every day, praying the rosary and praying for this movie, blah, blah, blah. And I said, good grief. They're actors. You're going to work with non-professionals and take on all that that involves. So you can say the rosary. I mean, would you do this if you were building a building? You would say, I want someone who can build an elevator. If they're holy, great. But really what matters to me is that the elevator doesn't collapse into the floor. It's the same thing with a lighting scheme or costuming. We do not approach media as if it was a professional enterprise. We over-spiritualize it. But I got to tell you, it's extremely powerful when these people come and work for us. You give them a job, and they get to do their thing, and we treat them well. Then they change their opinion. Home court advantage. The last graffiti in the Catholic ghetto, we need to send a message to Hollywood. So we all have to get out and support this rather bad movie. I mean, this has just become such a trend in the last decade. There's basically 3 publicity firms who market to the church as a consumer group: Graceful Media, Maximus, and Motive Entertainment. And their business plan is to turn you into the object of a marketing campaign, a consumer base. So they try to sell you, and most of the time they end up trying to guilt you into going and subsidizing product because you want to send a message to Hollywood. Well, you know the message that you're sending to Hollywood? My company brought a book that we had optioned called A Severe Mercy to Sony Pictures a couple of years ago. Anybody read A Severe Mercy? A few of you? Oh my goodness, that used to be a book everybody read. Please read A Severe Mercy, college kids. You will love it. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful love story tied in with C.S. Lewis, takes place at Oxford and the Caribbean and everywhere. It's a beautiful love story. Anyway, it's a very smart book, too, about the spiritual journey of these 2 characters from atheism into Catholicism or into Christianity, and then they end up becoming Catholics. Anyway, I was meeting with the head of the Christian division at Sony, and these are the people who've made a boatload of cash from the evangelicals on Facing the Giants and then even some Catholics on Fireproof and Courageous. And the market strategy of this group is, you know, it's like we spend the least amount we can, and then we say, send a message to Hollywood, and then everybody brings us $50 million. So they've done this 3 times, and with these 3 movies. So Sony has made a lot of money without any real investment. So the Jewish executive who's in charge of the Christian section says to me, and he picks up the book, A Severe Mercy by the Ends, and he said, you know, Barbara, you and I know this is good, but the Christians, they don't want this. He said, they don't want this. This is, you know, you should bring this to regular Sony. But the Christian division, this is just too deep for them. Isn't that great? Actually, my movie Mary, Mother of Christ was in Columbia in the same shingle for a couple weeks, and they wanted to cut the budget from $42 million down to under 10, and the executive said to me, this audience can be satisfied for a lot less. That's the message we're sending to Hollywood. Why should we have talent or training? We have Jesus. All right. What I want to say to you is Hollywood is just a place. And when you say Hollywood, you think of this evil throne mouth of hell, the throne center of the devil. When I think of Hollywood, I think of this as a casting call sheet. These are actors. Junior high with money. A teeming swamp filled with hundreds of thousands of hungry and needy and insanely talented artists, writers, actors, musicians, designers, visual artists, photographers, and directors. And as such, as John Paul said when he came to LA in his trip there, it must invite our special pastoral love and energy, not our disdain and avoidance. But John Paul II, in his letter to artists, said, artists are uniquely loved by God because they have a prophetic and priestly role in the church. And even when they're not in the church, they are still a vessel of revelation to the culture when they are pursuing the beautiful. this is how I want us to think. I want you to think the kingdom of heaven is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal till it was all leaven. We are supposed to be the yeast in the culture, not a subculture, not the Catholic room in the culture. We are supposed to be yeast in the culture. And here's the process of yeast. Too bad the slide is just like not working, but this is happy yeast, and it's dying. So after you add water to yeast, which is a little teeny bit of yeast in this whole big lump, but the bubble, it starts to bubble up and ferment, right? The yeast. And then you take the yeast and you pound it into the dough. You stretch the dough. And my mother used to make bread, pounding and stretching and pulling. See, that's you getting worked into the lump. And then for the big finish, the yeast is in the lump here. You cover it up, put it in the dark, and it dies. And it's the gases coming out of the yeast as it dies that push the lump up and make it fluffy and open. So all we have to do to be leaven in the culture is get pounded and stretched and pulled and then die. I say all the time to groups, we in the church are never going to get anywhere in the culture until we are willing to do for God what the pagans do for money. So no Catholic subculture. The culture with Catholics in it. I can back this up with so many church documents, including a Actuositutum Apostolical, whatever it is, the document on the laity from Vatican II. I could just sit here all night and shame us all. So what I want to propose is that, can we please lose the Christian, as in Christian movies, Christian music, Christian stories? Sacred when we're doing this kind of thing. We can say we're making a sacred movie or we're making sacred music. I'm fine with that because the subject matter is sacred. But otherwise, it's just stories told by us. As soon as you say, I'm writing a Christian story, what are you saying to me? I'm writing something banal that I can that can go into the subculture and be read by people like me. Not necessarily banal, but what are you doing? If it's good, put it in the mainstream. Let's shake it up. So I think we have to start thinking this way. This is our culture too. And don't we know it by looking at our own families? Probably every single one of you has a story in your own family of the ravages of the sexual revolution. We haven't been spared from divorce. We haven't been spared from same-sex attraction in our families, addictions, abortions. They are just as much our story as the people outside the church doors. So we are not only the priest of this culture, we are the patient, too. Okay. So I just want to throw a couple of these out here. These are some of my favorite beautiful, profound, and I would say in these cases, transcendent movies not made by Christians. We have a chapter in our book which is called Why the Best Christian Films Are Made by Pagans. But these are some: Lars and the Real Girl, The Visitor, In America, Of Gods and Men. That one I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure it was made by Europeans, so they're not real Christians anyway. And The Lives of Others, and then of course Up, probably the most beautiful 3 minutes on marriage ever put on film. Not made by Christians. And just so you think that I just didn't stumble on 6, this is on my webpage under the heading, It's Not All Garbage. And these are all worthy films. Many of them very prophetic. Some of them for grown-ups, not all for 4-year-olds. But that's okay. When I was a child, I thought like a child, and I ate like a child. Now to become an adult, I think like fun, blah, blah, blah. All right. So I want to start now, really, my talk, which I now have 20 minutes left. This is all introduction. A Christian movie, if we must use that term, and you say to me, well, what is authentic? What do we bring to the table? What would be missing if all the Catholics stopped telling stories? Let's pretend we were telling stories. If we were, what would be missing if we stopped? There's a mental gymnastic. I'm going to say that a Christian movie or book is first and foremost a thing of beauty. It's going to be more too, but it starts with beauty. So let me just say, if your movie isn't beautiful, don't you dare call it Christian. If it's bad acting, sloppy writing, bad production design, uneven everything, missing sound design, no lighting design, if it's that, don't you dare call it a Christian film. Because you realize that you're doing anti-propaganda for us. Because people will look at it and say, oh, Holy Spirit, schlock. I don't want that. So first and foremost, a thing of beauty. So I have to do a little crash course here in beauty because my thought is that most of you really couldn't define it. As we, actually here at Steubenville maybe you could, but bear with me then for insulting you. As Christians, most of us are going to say right away we assent this is beauty. Right? This is something beautiful. Okay. But what about this? Is this beautiful? This is from Apocalypse Now. What about this? This is from The Seventh Seal by Ingmar Bergman. Don't you all just gonna go where he's pointing? It's effective, isn't it? This one too, it's effective. Absolutely has emotional power. It's all in the composition. How about this? Is this beautiful? This one makes it harder, doesn't it? Because nobody wants to say this is ugly. Beauty in the Catholic Church aesthetic comes from the Greek word which means to call, and my Greek is not what it should be, kelen, to call. So what I want you to do is imagine you're this guy. What is this person feeling right now? Vertigo. There's one in every group. But, it's a good vertigo, though, isn't it? It's like an overwhelmedness. He's feeling awe, reverence. A healthy human being in this moment feels humble by the majesty of the cosmos, but okay with it. Like, he feels small, but not small like I have to go kill myself, I'm going to jump in. He feels small like I've been given a gift. Now, actually, let me return this. Pope Benedict wrote an essay called Beauty in the Face of Christ, where he says, beauty solves the problem of the Garden of Eden. The problem of the Garden of Eden was, you will be like God. Beauty makes us go, I'm not God, and it's okay. In fact, it's nice. It's nice being a little creature because I get to look and just go, wow, I feel safe, and there's a bigger thing going on here, and I'm part of it, and it was here before me, and it's going to be here after me, and I guess that means that time isn't what I think it is, and it's okay, I'm not God. Like, it's all wrapped up in the experience of the beautiful. When you hear a song that makes you, and the Pope uses this great line, it's like your heart is reaching out into eternity. It makes you homesick for heaven, the beautiful. Traditional philosophical definition of the beautiful is wholeness plus harmony plus radiance. I'm going to have these stamped on my grave. I say them at night when I'm like wholeness and harmony and radiance, because this is what I say in the church right now, because we've forgotten. Wholeness, quickly, means nothing missing and nothing extra. When the audience has an experience of wholeness, of that last piece in the puzzle, they go, I can relax. Why? Because we're meant for completeness. We're meant for the one who is whole. We're meant to be united to him. So there's the homesick for heaven thing. When you experience the beautiful, you get a flash of that. What does wholeness mean in a movie? Well, here's a few parts of a movie. The screenplay, the director vision, the casting, the performance, the cinematography, the lighting, the music, the sound, the editing, the costumes, the production design, each of which have many parts. Each of which have many parts. And then each of those parts have many parts. So a whole movie is one that has many, many parts. And number two, they're all working together in harmony. Harmony in the beautiful is complementarity, where each of the parts, fundamental excellence is how it relates to the other parts. So think of a complementary marriage. He's good where she's bad. They make each other better. That's the excellence in the beautiful. If you've ever experienced a movie where some parts are out of whack, I always think of Amistad as an example. This is a movie by Spielberg a few years ago, which started out with the most incredible beginning. I don't know, anybody see Amistad? Unbelievable, 3. It starts with an incredible beginning of the slaves coming over from Africa, and then quickly devolves into a 2-hour seminar on property law. And it becomes very, very bad, second act problems. So Spielberg and the guys, when they went back to the editing room, figured out this is really a bore. So they told the score, pump up the music. Maybe that'll cover for the fact. So you're sitting there watching this movie, and then all of a sudden it's like, woo! It's just like, what? They're trying to compensate. Hollywood does this a lot when something's not working. Can we get some bikinis in there, or a decapitation? That's disharmony. Things that don't fit and they don't bring out the best. Oh, I don't know what happened to my picture. The third aspect, it's too profound. I didn't want to mess up your reasoning. Yeah. The third aspect of the beautiful is radiance. This is the intellectual, moral, or spiritual enlightenment that comes through the thing. And this gives the audience, I forgot to say, I'm sorry. In harmony, the audience gets joy. Like I said, with wholeness, they get rest because it's completeness. In harmony, it's the everything working together in perfect complementarity is an image of heaven too, where we'll have no power structures and no domination and no fear and no coercion. Perfect relationship. So when you see a work of art where that's going on, it makes you feel happy because that's what you want, especially at Thanksgiving, in the family table. But so perfect harmony, it makes us happy. So number 3, radiance. This is where we learn something. The audience gets a sense of satisfaction. Why? Because we're the kind of being that was made to know. We want to know the reasons why. We want to know the answers. And when we get a communication that comes through art and it's coherent to us, we go, well, that was worth $8.50. Yeah. Right? And if you don't get one, then it wasn't worth $8.50. Or if it was a lie, you get even madder. So let me just wrap this up, this beauty part here, by saying that beauty is not cute, pretty, facile, puerile, disproportionate, sentimental, cheap, easy, non-threatening, or a lie. This I took from Paul VI's hall. It's such an abomination of desolation there over the poor Pope. Okay, quickly, the enemies of the beautiful in the church. You say, well, why are we, when I said, how did we get here? Here's what I think. The first enemy of the beautiful in the church is egalitarianism. This is the heresy that every time we do art in the people of God, all of us must be able to do it together in the same time, way, and respect. The church used to understand that there were artists that God had sent who had been given special gifts that the rest of us fed them and supported them, and then we said to them, sing. But the value today is we must all sing it together. Unfortunately, the music that the community can sing together without any practice or training is Barney music. My sister's an opera singer. A few years ago, she stopped singing in the Catholic Church, and I remember when she told me why, they only wanted to pay her $20 a mass. And she's like, I got a master's. I got college loans. I'd have to practice for 2 hours and then go there and then be there for 2 hours. They're basically paying me $5 an hour, and I'm a mezzo-soprano who sings at opera houses. But she said the real reason she didn't want to sing at the Catholic Church anymore was because they want me to sing crap. And she didn't want to sing crap. So she took the endowed chair at the Episcopalian church down the street for a mezzo-soprano. How many Catholic churches do you know that have an endowed chair for a mezzo-soprano? None. Okay, number 2 is politics. This is politics. This image, anybody know what this is? This image stands over the $210 million cathedral. This is Our Lady, Queen of the Angels. Cardinal Mahoney version. Now, when we went for the introductory tour of the cathedral, the guide told us this image was made to represent all peoples. It's deliberately androgynous. My students call it man hands Mary. It's deliberately androgynous, and you can't really tell whether it's a man or a woman. She has a little bit of hair, and you have to walk around the side to kind of see it. It's in a ponytail. But they also explained to us that she has black lips. She has the shape of a face of some other culture. She has Asian, eyes. And the guide concluded by saying, this way, every race standing under the doorway will see itself in the statue and feel welcome. Now, it begs the question whether Asian people go to Rome and look at the Pietà and say, that's great for the white people. Do they? No. So that's the first stupid thing there. But the second stupid thing is a creature that's got everything blended in is a freak. It's the farthest thing from I feel a welcome coming into your house. She should have a sign, welcome to the Hotel California. This thing was not made to be beautiful, whole, harmonious, and radiant. It was made to be a political statement. The last one in the middle, oh, don't we all love the felt banners? The primary motive of felt banners in the church is cheapness. It used to be that the church would say, we have a wall. What should we put on the wall? And the church would brood and say, we are the community of Franciscan University. Let us put St. Francis in blah, blah, blah moment. Who is the greatest artist out there? Let's ask several great artists to give us their thing. And then we say to them, okay, this is the one. It's so beautiful. How much? And the artist says, $4.5 million. And you say, great. We'll start raising money now. You put that first little mosaic thing in there because darn it, if it takes us 200 years, we are going to put that there, that $4.5 million beautiful thing. That's how the church used to do art. You know what the church does now? We have a wall. How much we got? We got $47.50 in the environment account. All right, well, see what you can get for, like $47.30. Save some extra just in case. And, try to get something good. There's no faith in us anymore. The Cathedral of Oviedo, the one I showed you in the beginning with the huge facade, took 600 years to build. Okay. I have to move fast because I've got 4 minutes and I haven't even really hit my main point. Okay, you say to me, I really like Bella. And I'm going to say, that's fine. You have bad taste. That's fine. You're allowed to have bad taste. It only becomes gravely sinful when you're the music director at a parish. What do I mean? The church, this is from Etienne Gilson, a great philosopher, and talks about beauty in just beautiful ways. But he says you need three things to see the beautiful. Sensitivity, that means you have to be free of prejudice and fear. You need information about the art form. You need to know, you need to not be ignorant. And number three, you need imagination. You need to be able to let your history combine with the object so that it can reveal itself to you in communion with your history. It takes imagination. So the Luddite, the fool, and the ideologue cannot encounter the beautiful. If you tell me you love Bella, I say Bella is doing something for you on some level, emotionally or psychologically, you know, mine. You know, maybe you got dropped on your head.
The first pro-life movie in a while.
I don't agree. I thought Juno came out that same year and it was a much stronger movie.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh. Oh! Don't you love when somebody asserts the first pro-life movie in a while and is like completely wrong?
I have seen it.
Okay, there you go. It wasn't made by Catholics though, so psst. Right. Okay. The point is, you're allowed to have bad taste as long as you don't wallow in it. And you want to move into having good taste. It's fine if you say, oh, I like these things. I like pork rinds. But I would never say they're like broccoli for me. So we just have to begin to separate. My sense of Catholics in the arts, and especially in the film area, is when we talk about these things, we don't know what we're talking about. We only know what we like. And too often what we like is informed by our own fears and prejudice, not by actual knowledge of the art form. I could give a whole lecture. You know, I love the guys at Bella. It was a beginner effort. Fine, there's room for that. We treated it in the church like it was Lawrence of Arabia. In fact, I had somebody, when I said that at a public speech, say to me, it was better than Lawrence of Arabia. And I'm like, you sound like a fool. Please, don't say you're Catholic in public. Okay, a beautiful movie is a great story, a great work of art, and a great work of entertainment. It's all three. A lot of movies skew towards one end of that triangle or the other, but a great movie is all three. A great story, I'm going to say a good story, and this is from Aristotle, something to see, you know, even just in your mind, choices, not dialogue, and then a beautiful, cool arena. I say to you, the Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road coming out of we're out of the woods, you with me? I mean, it's a dream. It's a beautiful, beautiful visual dream. And great movies, you can just do that, you know? And you can see them when you think of them in terms of this beautiful look of them. A good movie, something to see, something to learn. The big idea, what is this? Why are people in China in 400 years going to watch this and still get out of it? Why can we watch Casablanca and still be moved by it? Why can we read Dante's Inferno and still shiver in horror? Because the big idea, this universal thing that's there that speaks to us in our deepest levels, not to the politics of the moment. When I say politics, you know, I mean the bigger thing than just Republican and Democrat. Damn the Democrats. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so now something to learn, new information, that you've done your homework. You have something to say about the issues at hand in the story. You have something to say about human psychology, something to say about spiritual truth. You have something to say that I don't know. A good story is something to feel. Some kind of emotion gets stirred up in me. Pathos or anger or fear or terror or wonder from your story. If I just sit there and go, this is not a good movie. If it doesn't move you. Movies move you. Finally, something to dream about. A great movie ending feels like a new beginning. The end of the Hunger Games. You go off in your brain with what's next. It's a sign of a movie, that it launches your imagination, a great story. Okay, I'm going to skip here to the end and end with this part. Sorry about that. I would go into what makes great art and great entertainment, but I've got to move. Okay, so then the question I'm asking you, I just laid out for you that a beautiful movie, a Christian movie is first and foremost beautiful. So you're saying to me, well, so does that mean these are Christian movies in this sense? Would these be what I would say Catholics should be doing? Well, okay, why not? I know The Little Fish helped our family in a lot of ways. Got my brother-in-law to ask, babe, am I a good dad? You know, it was cute. So there's certainly nothing wrong with this kind of thing, and we need good tales, well told, that will lead the audience to catharsis, as Aristotle wanted. He wanted a catharsis of compassion or a catharsis of the fear of evil. And all of these do that. So this is fine. And to have people like you with pastoral hearts telling good tales to the culture, that's good. But I think we need to do more. And what is that? So John Paul II had this great line, which to me, it haunts me. This generation of the church will have to atone for its failure to use the media of social communication to spread the gospel of life. Speaking particularly of the gospel of life, but the gospel period. That the people of Capernaum are going to get asked why they didn't welcome Jesus. We're going to be asked, why didn't you make the movies? Because these gifts were given to the people of the modern era by God to spread the gospel. And we have stayed hunkered down in our cave, content to let people who do not share our faith have at them. If I had time, I would talk about euthanasia, which is coming, which I know is coming because I watch television. Most of you don't even know it's coming because you don't maybe watch television. It's coming. They're already winning awards for their euthanasia shows. We don't even know the battle's been engaged, and the culture's almost there. We will have to atone. So what else do we have to do besides good tales well told? I think we need to start thinking of Christian as the subtext of the movie, the presuppositions in our storytelling that underlie our stories. It's really where the stories grow out of our presuppositions, our defining presuppositions that people that don't believe in Jesus don't have. I also want to assert that a truly Christian story, therefore, is not in how it ends, but where it begins. Because the presuppositions are the journey. Whether the character embraces the grace or not is not the point. Flannery O'Connor understood that. In half of her stories, the moment of grace is not, you're not real clear that it's been accepted. But the point is, the moment of grace is there. Because Flannery's presupposition is grace is out there. It underlies all of her stories. It's where she starts. So where do our stories begin? I was going to say there's one other really brilliant point. Oh, I feel so bad for you that I wouldn't remember it. Oh. Anyway, we'll see if it comes to me. Okay, so what I've done here is I'm going to just really fast give you my 7 defining presuppositions. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list, but I think I've got the key ones. But I'm sure you might come up with a few more. This is, if all the Christians were gone tomorrow, what would be missing in storytelling? So the first one I'm going to say that we bring to the table, that we would underlie our stories, is everything we see is a sign of something we cannot see. So what am I talking about here? These suppositions would be in the movie, like so woven into the story, that it's never even stated, but it's just in the fabric of the story. You have to take it on to understand the story. I'll give you an example. In Friends, the TV show Friends, one of the underlying presupposition of Friends was that sex isn't that big a deal. It underlied the entire show. You couldn't laugh at any of the jokes that were in that realm that had to do with sex without just accepting that presupposition. You had to take it on and say, sex isn't that big a deal, and then you can laugh. So in the same way, people would have to take on our presuppositions for the character choices to make sense. And there's the power. They're trying out our worldview. So one of them, this is what I would call the sacramental worldview. I just love this sign. I found it on the thing, Floody Place. I think there's so many great stories we could tell as believers where there's a floody place. Look out! Anyway, I thought that was just great. Maybe it's because I've been working with undergrads and they spell about this level. And I almost didn't even see the mistake. But so in other words, we believe in the hidden world. We believe it's as real as the real world. Our stories are going to be suffused with that. And everything that comes along with the hidden world, we live forever. We're immortal beings. We have souls. We have spirits. The most important things aren't things. All these things are kind of in that fundamental sacramental vision. Everything we see is a sign of something we don't. Another one that's going to suffuse our work. This picture is wrong. But I just love this picture because it's such an error, and it was made by Christians. It's this is complete messed up. Half of my argument, by the way, against Fireproof and Facing the Giants isn't just that it's bad craft. It's a bad theology. Those movies are so full of prosperity gospel stuff, which is bad theology. Anyway, this is bad theology. What's wrong with this? Exactly. The enemy of the devil is not God. The enemy of the devil is St. Michael. Now, too many movies make it look like, it's a tie. I'm fine with there being a life and death struggle between good and evil in your story, as long as the end, it's very clear to the audience that in not embracing the good, they have fallen short. Because the good is much better than the evil is bad. So many times we get dragged through the sewer in a lot of movies by Christians lately. There's this anti-trend going on. I read one recently. It opened with just a gross, gross scene. It was a rape. And actually my note from my reader, guy who reads for me, was, not only should this movie not be made, but this writer should be in jail. And when I called the guy and I said, you're a Christian, what are you doing? And he said, I wanted to show that Christians could go there. We could be just as gritty. See, because he's heard me talk. And I'm like, ah! I want you to be gritty with little things. I want you to show the power and pain in somebody burning a cake for their friends. And, I want you to make people cry over things. If you have to have a rape to show badness, you're really out of your league. But anyway, there's a problem, like the horse whisperer problem is what I call it. This is a movie that started with a terrible, terrible, awful scene, and then the victory in the film never came as high as the bad thing felt bad. Okay? All right. Number 3. Christian defining subtext, joy and suffering are inextricably bound. I'm going to call it the ironic juxtaposition of joy and suffering, where we can hold both things in our hand at the same moment without any contradiction. It's defining of us. It's the Christian paradox. Number 4, death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. The loss of a soul is worse. The loss of integrity is worse. We're going to need this one when the euthanasia argument comes up. We're going to have to be convincing people. Suffering is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Physical death. This is, by the way, the whole thing with our martyrs. martyrs testify that death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. So a movie like A Man for All Seasons is suffused with this subtext. Number 5, redemption is found in cleaving to beauty, truth, and goodness, otherwise known as the second person of the Holy Trinity. This is Lumen Gentium. You can be saved by being in a deep relationship with beauty, because beauty is Christ. Ooh, questioning the heresy there, but I'm right. Okay, number 6, any being that can behold God in the face is sacred. So not an egg or a sperm, but something conceived. All it needs is dirt and water, and it will see God in the face. Anything that can do that is sacred. This is one of our things. Number 7, grace is always out there. This is a great painting based on The Good Man is Hard to Find. Not a great painting, but I like it because I love Flannery. So. And then number 8, the greatest thing you can do is to die for your friends. This is Jesus, but Katniss. Thank you, Katniss. It's a good setup. I'm going to be in talk on the Hunger Games tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Okay, so my answer to you when we say, if you must use this phrase, I want to make Christian films, please mean I want to make beautiful films united to some of our defining subtexts. I don't want to make banal, easy, mediocre schlock that other Christians will go see because we're in the club together. This is not what we need. It's not what the world needs. All right, God bless you. Thank you.